Well, I'm delighted today to be speaking to David Bufton from Acclaim here in the Isle of Man. Welcome, David.
Hi, nice to meet you.
We're going to chat a little bit about the e-gaming sector here on the Isle of Man, which is a very prevalent industry. But first of all, just tell us a little bit about your background and story of you joining Acclaim.
Sure. So I moved over to the island in 2008, worked for KPMG in the UK, trained as a chartered accountant, did a little bit of audit over here, then moved into the gaming industry where I stayed for 6-7 years. Loved it. Unbelievably thrilling industry where the pace is so quick, and if you don't keep up with the pace, you get left behind very, very quickly. And I really enjoyed the nature of the business because you're always learning, changing, evolving. Moved from there into telecoms for 5 years, learned an awful lot, very different pace. So whereas e-gaming is just kind of 100 miles an hour all the time, telecoms is a lot slower rollout of projects. So did that, then moved back into the e-gaming industry with Acclaim last year, and loving it. Really realised quite how much I missed the industry, and it's really enjoyable to be back.
Great. I mean, in the private wealth sector in general, I think advisors' specific knowledge on the e-gaming sector, there's definite room for improvement.
Yeah.
So how do you describe the sector and the kind of businesses you find within it?
Sure. So I think to start off, it's useful to just describe just how big it is in the Isle of Man. So there are roughly 75 licensed gaming entities on the island, which contributes around 20% of the island's GDP. So when you look at those sort of numbers, it's huge. It's a really big employer on the sector, and there's some of the biggest players in the e-gaming world are located on the Isle of Man.
So globally it stands out as a centre.
Globally it stands out for multiple reasons, really. I think one of the things that really sets the Isle of Man aside from competitors or competitive jurisdictions is the quality of the infrastructure. Everything is geared around to make e-gaming companies successful. So from the data centres, so you've got multiple top tier data centres here. The attitude of the gambling regulator here is they're very, very thorough, and there's a very robust regulatory regime, which is incredibly important, but they're also very helpful. They'll work
accessible.
with you, accessible. One of the best things about working here in the gaming industry is that if you have an issue, a regulatory issue, a question, you can pick up the phone and you can talk to one of the top guys within a minute. And it's so refreshing to be able to move at that sort of pace.
For decision makers and entrepreneurs in the sector, it's totally different, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's compared to some other jurisdictions where maybe the regulatory regime is less tough, and people say, oh, I'd rather go to maybe Curaçao because it's an easier process. But then again, you don't have the framework to support you, the framework for growth. And that's another thing the Isle of Man does so well, is they're very innovative from a regulator down in terms of new technologies.
Does it involve a physical component? So do people come and set up, like you say, the data centre or offices, physical?
Yes. So many companies have head offices here. So the PokerStars building, which is owned by Flutter now, is directly behind us on the headlands. And there are thousands of people on island who are employed specifically for the e-gaming sector. So it's a really, really big physical business as opposed to just a name plaque on a door saying
real
this company
substance.
is based real substance, real people, and many, many entities who are thriving in the current setup.
No, interesting. And so clients can come to you globally. So inquiries come from all over the world, I imagine. And then how do those inquiries tend to work through?
Correct. So we'll get an inquiry, like you say, genuinely a worldwide base of clients that we have. The clients, the inquiry will come in and they'll just give us a little bit about themselves, what they're trying to do, what markets they're targeting, what gaming vertical. So the Isle of Man's set up for casino, sports betting, poker, and everything comes under one license. So there's no separate license for separate verticals. We'll liaise with the clients, see if we can meet their needs, see if the Isle of Man is right for them, first and foremost. And then we'll run through the application process for a license, what is expected from them, what we can provide, and go through timeframes and take it from there, really. It's the licensing process is, some would say, more thorough than other jurisdictions, but it does what it needs to meet all of the regulatory requirements and make sure that it's a fully compliant, and that the kind of player protection and responsible entities are taken very seriously by the regulator. So you have to go through a lot of processes to make sure that you are right for the Isle of Man to have a gaming license, which is absolutely what they should be doing. So it's a 12-week process to get a license. it's thorough, but one of the things I think is most useful is how well the GSC will work with you. The Gambling Supervision Commission will work with you to make sure that you're not fighting against them. You are working with them, and that makes the process so much easier and so much. I don't think more enjoyable, but it's not.
There's not a lot of friction to it.
Exactly.
You're getting your job done. You're pleasing the client.
Exactly, whilst still maintaining very, very high regulatory standards, which is really, really important.
Okay, interesting. And are there sort of key conferences and events? Do you travel around the world to go to? Where do people meet from this sector?
Sure. So the biggest one is ICE. ICE in London. Every February is a fantastic conference. I think 40,000 people were at last ICE. And you can really feel it's getting back to the levels that it was achieving pre-COVID, where it was shut down for a couple of years. And ICE in 2023 was a fantastic event. And it's great to meet so many people who, having left the industry for a while and then come back, just catch up with so many great contacts, friends who you haven't seen for a while. And that would be one. There are various conferences in Berlin, Las Vegas, Amsterdam. So the opportunities to network several times a year with the key players in the industry.
So what about in sort of connected areas like esports? How are you seeing that developing?
We're seeing real growth on the island. There are several dedicated esports hubs where people can go to just enjoy it with their friends, but also on a more competitive level. Yeah. There are competitive esports teams.
People are earning serious money, aren't they?
People are earning serious money. Unbelievable growth business. And also on the e-gaming side, there's a burgeoning market for betting on esports as well. That the Isle of Man government and companies such as Acclaim help to set up. So if you are a company that's interested in esports betting as well as esports setup, that's something that Acclaim and the Isle of Man government on a wider level can really help you with through setup and through the growth phases.
And I guess the esports teams and participants are a younger demographic, aren't they? But if they're creating wealth, they need the services of the rest of the island, like the banks, like the other corporate structures or trusts that maybe be set up. So it's creating new clients as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we had a very interesting discussion with dinner last night about the YouTube generation and how much money these guys are making on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, and how tapping into that demographic can be really, really important for the private client industry, because it's a difficult market, I can imagine, to get into, but once you're in there, the wealth, I don't think, is entirely appreciated by a lot of.
It's overlooked, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely overlooked. Yeah, and I think it could be a real growth market going forward for both corporate service providers and private wealth companies.
Fascinating. Well, nice to talk to you today, David, and we look forward to sharing this interview.
Thank you. Nice to speak to you as well.
The latest technical content delivered through global conversations with professionals for professionals.